Welcome to No Space Between Us. I am Tiffany.
And I am your host, Michael.
And on today, we're going to continue our series with hearing but not listening.
Yes.
Hearing but not listening. And we're going to be talking about the unspoken need, the unheard heart. But before we get into that, we want to just share some insight on why we're doing the series Hearing but Not Listening. Before we were talking about surface level talk that's killing your connection. And for your relationship, your relationship may be more surface than in-depth talk.
Right. And in this particular subject here, we're dealing with the unspoken words, where before we talked about the surface level, like you just said. Here we're talking about the things you don't say, those nonverbal communicators that we have, and we're finding out, right, that it's 70-80% of the communication is nonverbal. So if you and your partner are not in tune with each other, you may find that it's really hurting the relationship, right? And we've experienced this in a great deal.
We have. And so it's important because if you go on with just having a surface level communication, that can just bring so much into a relationship. But the biggest thing is that it can bring disconnection.
Yeah.
It'll make your relationship become more and more distant.
Right.
And so on today, we're going to talk about the unspoken side of marriage.
Yes.
And me and my husband, we were doing some research and we were reading on Daniel Goleman, and he was just talking about emotional intelligence. And I just wanted to read a statement that he made in regards to this. Relationships thrive when partners can recognize and respond to emotions beyond words. And it's so important because your partner can be giving off in a body language, an emotion that is not being verbally said.
Right.
But if you was paying attention to your partner, as far as like I said, with the body language and just how they're looking, or by the way they came in through the door, you should be able to immediately sense something is wrong and ask them what's going on.
Right. And it's vital, right? Because when we talk about that unspoken side of the marriage, where we're relying on our partners to engage us based off of our emotional cues, right? And as you said, Daniel Goleman talked about emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence is us being able to go one step further than just what you say verbally. And we're going to give some scenarios, but before we even get into the scenarios, we just want to remind you that we have a workbook, and you can find the link in the description.
Yes.
And we ask that you would download the workbook, because there's a lot more information in our workbook that more than what we will go through here in this podcast. Now, we're going to go through some things from our workbook just so you can kind of see where the workbook will take you. But there's a lot more information there. So it's important that you download it, because we meant it to be a tool that you can use for you and your spouse to diagnose your relationship as it pertains to this particular subject. So let's dive into it. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 20:5 that the heart is like deep waters, and that we are to search it out with intent. I'm paraphrasing it. But what the scripture is telling us is that there's mysteries beneath the surface.
Absolutely.
And like we talked about in our last conversation, we have to go beyond the surface of what a person is saying, and we have to become more in tune with what their body is telling us. And so in that, we have an example, and I'll give an example from one of our books,
Okay.
The Silent Stress. And in this example, listen, everyone can relate to this, right? So the husband comes home from work, he drops his bag, he sighs. He doesn't complain, but his tone is short and he seems withdrawal. His wife ignores it, assuming he's just tired. Days later, resentment sets in, and resentment grows because she never checked in, right? So in this scenario, the husband came home. He was looking for that emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, that his body language represented something different than maybe what he said, right? And she never took the opportunity to investigate what else was going on with him. Immediately, he just drew the assumption that I'm speaking to you without speaking to you. My body language is saying that I got something going on. You just assume I was tired, but I'm really stressed about a lot of different things that maybe is going on in my life right now. And I can't necessarily communicate that because let's be honest, a lot of times we don't know how to communicate everything that's going on with us.
Absolutely.
But our body language will share information that's not said. And if you want that connection, we talk about that deeper level of connection.
Yes.
You have to be in tune with what that person is, the nonverbals of what that person is saying.
Right. That's added on to in-depth communication, because you want to engage and you want to be more connected with your partner. But in order to do that, it takes more than just hearing. It takes you looking at them. It takes you sensing their body language, how they're moving, what their face is saying, to engage in exactly what is going on.
So what could she have said in that moment? When she seen him come through the door, he looked visibly stressed out, and she just assumed he was tired. How would she have engaged that to kind of get to that, address the nonverbal?
So I would have just asked, how was your day?
Right.
What is going on? You seem a little bit disturbed.
Now, that's the key. Listen to what she just said. The key to that was she named the emotion. It's not enough to just ask the question. We have to put a name to the emotion as well. Name what you see, because then that validates, right? Because when you name that emotion, now that makes me then have to draw deeper and we can have a deeper conversation, because if you're wrong about that, right? Let's just say you said I look disturbed. You put a name to the emotion. If you're wrong about it, my question is, why do you think that? Because now this draws for a conversation. Your body language is not just that you're tired, right? I'm not going to assume you're tired.
Right.
I'm saying that you look like something is wrong. You look disturbed.
And sometimes we don't, as your partner is giving off one thing, sometimes us being the receivers, we don't want to deal with it ourselves. Sometimes we kind of just ignore it and we just move on to something else, like, you know what, they're in their mood, so we're just going to kind of just let them be in their mood.
Right.
Sometimes it's okay if you walk away for let's give them 5 minutes, but make sure you come back to your partner and say, I just wanted to give you a couple of minutes to kind of calm down, because you walked in and it seemed like you were disturbed. And I just want to know what went on today.
Right. Here's another scenario. This is another scenario we put in the workbook. So there's a disagreement between you and your spouse. And I'm going to use, in this case, my wife. And after the disagreement, I asked my wife if she's okay. Her response is, with her arms folded, I'm fine. In that scenario, you may have said you were fine, right? But your body language, your eyes, your tone,
Giving
your
off
facial
something
expression
totally different.
gives off something totally different. Now, I could take that I'm fine, right? If I'm not emotionally invested in my wife. If I'm not emotionally invested, when she said I'm fine, okay, I asked you, because this would be the response. I asked you, you say you're fine, so okay, then you're fine.
There's that disconnect.
That's the disconnection.
You're not connected with your partner. So immediately you just walk away. She said she was fine. Okay.
She said she's fine. And not only did the situation just get worse, but the partner now feels that you're not emotionally connected, nor do you even care. Even though I said I'm fine, my body language should have told you something different. And listen, guys, this is where we have to get out of that mindset. Well, I asked the question, it ain't my responsibility for you to get, if I ask you the question, it's your responsibility to tell me. Sometimes we don't know how to communicate what we're feeling. The body is showing you that there's something else there. If I want a deeper relationship, if I want a deeper connection with my partner, then I have to be willing to read all the verbal cues and the nonverbal cues.
That's right.
Before I can reasonably say, how do I deal with this situation? Because ultimately you asked, understand what I just asked you. I asked you, are you okay?
Mhm.
So if I ask the question then is asked to me, are you really concerned about her being okay? Because if you are concerned about her being okay, then when her nonverbal cues said she wasn't okay, you have an obligation to go further because you asked, are you okay? I really am concerned. Your verbal cues is telling me, your nonverbal cues is telling me you're not okay. So my response to that is, babe, I know you say you're okay. I'm not sure if there's something that you want to talk about right now, but your body language is telling me that you're not okay, that there is something still in this situation that needs to be resolved.
Because if you don't address it immediately, it can go into assumptions, assuming that, hey, maybe they have something against me. Maybe, I did something this morning that set them off, that got them upset. So maybe I do need to just, leave them alone. I mean, that can walk into the dangers of assumption.
And that brings us to our next chapter.
Before we close, remember this. Sometimes your spouse is saying more than words ever could. Pay attention to the silence, the body language, and the things left unsaid. If this spoke to you, like, subscribe, and remember, leave no space between you and your spouse.